The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the Journal.
In Senate, Saturday, April 8, 2023, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Friday, April 7, 2023 was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly, messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions. Senator Gianaris.
Good morning, Mr. President. On behalf of Senator Krueger, I wish to call up Senate Print 131, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 147, Senate Print 131 by Senator Krueger, an act to amend the education law.
Consider the vote by which the bill was passed.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris, Krueger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White, ayes 56.
The bill is restored to its place on the third reading calendar.
Following amendments.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Amendments are also offered to the following third reading calendar bills by Senator Skoufis, Calendar 389, and by Senator Fernandez, Calendar 473.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
I move to adopt the resolution calendar.
All those in favor of adopting the resolution calendar, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Rules Committee in room 332.
The Senate will stand at ease.
Senate will stand at ease. The Senate will return to order. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, there's a report of the Rules Committee at the desk. Can we please take that up?
Secretary will read.
Senator Stewart Cousins from the Committee on Rules reports the following bill. Senate Print 6260 by Senator Krueger, an act making appropriation for the support of government.
Move to accept the report of the Rules Committee.
All those in favor of accepting the report of the Rules Committee signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The report of the Rules Committee is accepted. Senator Gianaris.
Please take up the supplemental calendar. Secretary
will read.
Calendar number 589, Senate Print 6260 by Senator Krueger, an act making appropriation for the support of government.
Message of necessity and appropriation at the desk.
There is a message of necessity and appropriation.
Move to accept the message.
All those in favor of accepting the message, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The message is accepted. The bill is before the House.
Lay it aside.
Lay it aside. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of the calendar.
Let's take up the controversial calendar, please.
Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 589, Senate Print 6260 by Senator Krueger, an act making appropriation for the support of government.
Good morning.
Senator O'Mara, why do you rise?
Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you. We'll have some questions on this bill, but first, through you, Mr. President, if Senator Krueger could explain the bill before us.
Sponsor yield.
Thank you very much. I'd be happy to. The bill's an extender to take us through next Monday, the 17th. Last week we were here and we passed an expender for a week, taking us through today. And this would be a second extender because perhaps in preparation for the next question, no, there are no budget bills in print for us to vote on today. Hence, in order to ensure that the state of New York continue its government in operation with its workers being paid, we need to pass an additional extender today.
Through you, Mr. President, Senator Krueger would yield for a question.
Sponsor yield.
Yes, I will.
Sponsor yields.
Good morning, Senator. Thank you for that explanation. You know, we knew last Monday, regardless of whether we had a budget done over the weekend or not, that we were going to have to do this extender today to make payroll on Wednesday for so many state workers. So why are we doing this bill today on a message of necessity, when we could have done a 2-week last week and avoided having all the members come back to Albany for this one item?
Thank you for that question, and through you, Mr. President. I have no disagreement, but we don't do extender bills. The governor passes down an extender bill. She sets the timeline and what's in it, and then sends a message of necessity when it's come so late that the 3 days of aging could not happen. So we in this House, both sides, have no choice today other than do we vote for this extender and continue government and the workers getting paid, or do we not? That's the only option in front of us.
Through you, Mr. President, if Senator Krueger would yield for another question.
Sponsor yield.
Yes, I will.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, then, this is all upon the governor's back, I suppose, tweaking the legislature to come back weekly because there is no budget done and there has been no submission to her demands in the budget that these majorities disagree with. The governor could have submitted an extender knowing there was no budget on April 1st, when we were here last, through next Monday, the 17th, and saved the state the expense of calling the legislature back here for 1 day last Monday and 1 day today. Could not the governor have done that at that time?
So legally, yes, the governor could have done that. As to the governor's motivation, which was really the beginning of the senator's question, I have no inside knowledge of what the governor's motivation is for giving us 2 one-week extenders versus 1 2-week extender last Monday.
Mr. President, if the senator will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield.
Certainly.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, do you have any estimate for what it costs the taxpayers of New York to call this legislature back into session for 1 day?
I don't believe I do. I suppose someone could calculate the number of legislators that showed up, what their per diem would be for that trip. We all get paid, or in this case, don't get paid, regardless of whether we're coming to Albany or not, so there's not a payroll question. So no, I don't know. Do you know? I'm sorry. Through you, Mr. President, perhaps I may ask if my colleague knows.
Thank you. Other than approximations, and as you said, depending on how many members actually show up, see most of our seats are filled over here, a few empty seats over there. Roughly my calculations for per diems and mileage for the members comes anywhere around $60,000 to $70,000, I think. Would you think that's all the ballpark or close for?
The sponsor yield.
Will the sponsor yield?
The sponsor will yield, and the sponsor will say, she has not done those calculations, so I'm willing to accept that my colleague's projection sounds reasonable, but I have no basis in knowing because I didn't go through the per diems and try to add them up before now.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator will continue to yield.
The sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, are we any closer to a budget today than we were last Monday?
My understanding is yes, that we have made some progress and that the leadership continues to meet and will continue to meet. And I'm a glass half full kind of person, so I'm actually feeling more optimistic today than I was last Monday.
Through you, Mr. President, the senator would yield.
The sponsor continue to yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
I would like to share your optimism, Senator Krueger, and I hope that's accurate. But as we stand here today, are there any table targets for any aspect of the budget at this point?
No, I I don't believe the discussions are around specific table targets as much as around major policy issues still to be resolved within the budget, which of course have dollars attached to them.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. President, if Senator Krueger will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So there's no table target or agreement on the overall education budget and its appropriation at this point. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are not in a place where we have details that have been three-way agreed that will actually eventually show up in budget language for us all to see.
Through you, Mr. President, the Senator will continue to yield.
The sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, as you know, this is the time of the year and part of the problems with the late budget, particularly around education. That's why I asked about that bill in particular, where our school districts need to prepare their school budgets to send them out for a vote, and they don't know what they're getting. So how are they able to plan for their budgets that have to go to a vote by the public when our budget here doesn't, unfortunately, have to go before the public? It's just before us. So how can our school districts be planning for that with these delays encroaching upon their time to be submitting their budget to their voters?
I do think that my colleague is right, that when you look at what is the impact of a later budget in any given fiscal year, when you're doing straight extenders and you're assuring people that government will continue to operate and the workers will continue to get paid, the recognition is there's not that much difference whether a budget is a couple of weeks late, with the one exception, I think as my colleagues pointed out, that we certainly want to get this done before, I believe, the May budget votes that take place in X percentage of the counties. But I think in this year in particular, when you look at what the governor originally proposed as funding for education, and then look at both one-house bills, I think that reasonably, most Board of Elections or school districts who are trying to evaluate their budget projections can assume reasonably that the dollar amount will not be less than what the governor proposed, and probably in some cases will be more, since both houses have put in some specific items they hope to see more of. So if this was a year where we had a governor who was starting out with a cut in school funding, I would be more concerned for the local districts in trying to decide their budgets. Given what we know already, despite not having the final numbers, I think there is less reason to be concerned.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. President, if the Senator will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator, are there any what we would call policy changes in this extender? Last week there were none. Are there any policy changes in this extender?
Yes, in the sense that while we have still not completed negotiations on the health program funding, and there's quite a bit of categories in healthcare funding, there was there was something that we passed 2 years ago, ending the 340B program in healthcare funding, and the concern by many providers that without this funding or alternative funding, they were going to be in serious trouble and even have to lay people off. The governor, I think, in what I see as a good faith effort to make clear that we are addressing this somehow in the budget negotiations, put in, I believe, $9 million for this 1 week, specifically to go to the providers who, as of April 1st, would have lost 340B funding, because that was, from 2 years ago, sunsetting April 1st, 23. So I don't know whether you call that a policy change. I think that would be what you meant there.
Thank you, Senator. Through you, Mr. President, Senator Krueger will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Yes, thank you, Senator. That was exactly the point I was trying to make. So it's technically not a policy change, but this is the first time we're funding that policy that was set up 2 years ago. Is that pretty accurate?
Well, actually, yes, I'm sorry. It's both. We established that as of April 1st, funding would move out of one set of activities into pharmacy reimbursement. So 340B would shift to more going to pharmacy reimbursements for the drugs, but would actually be taken away from healthcare providers who were operating specific programs for chronically ill people, chronically ill, low-income people, for example, people with HIV. And so the governor here is attempting to show that, as she referenced in her original executive budget, but I think both houses were pushing for more clarity and more of a commitment, that we were actually going to be keeping whole the providers who were losing money through 340B because it was going to pharmacies instead, but we were going to try to make them whole with additional other funds through healthcare. And so even though that has all not been completely resolved, because we would be discussing a budget bill with that in it if it was, I believe that her intention with that $9 million for this week was to show she was making good that money would continue to flow to the providers who now technically had lost 340B as of April 1st.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. President, the senator will continue to yield.
The sponsor continue to yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Can you explain to us, Senator Krueger, that $9 million due to the change in the 340B program, is that state funds, or is that just a different way of appropriating the federal Medicaid dollars that are coming in anyways?
We're trading staff, so she can help me.
I noticed that.
Hi there. That's okay. So the groups getting the money are federally eligible for different healthcare funds, but the $9 million that is in this extender is specifically state money.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. President, the sponsor will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
All right. I guess the crux of my question is this change in the 340B program, even though this week's extender is $9 million of state funds, not federal funds. In the annual picture of this change in the program, how is that changing the cost of state funds versus federal Medicaid dollars that come in?
Second staff person. So right now, again, as I just answered earlier, this will be state money for the $9 million and is again, a statement by the governor, we believe, of saying, we're going to figure this out, but we haven't figured it out yet. 340B money is federal. We are not giving that back. We are shifting what it's being used for with some expectation, at least by the one House budget this House passed, that there will be some kind of compromise combination ensuring that the 340B money is maximized and not sent back to the feds, but that there is additional money available to make sure that the other providers who will be losing 340B because of this change are kept whole.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. President, the senator will continue to yield.
Did the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you for that, Senator. It doesn't really clear up the issue, at least in my mind anyways, and the health area not being my particular bailiwick. I'll leave it at that confused state at this point for today. This extender today is for what, about $1.5 billion for the week?
Again, just 100 million off. We show 1.6 billion.
Okay.
But 1.6, 1.5, yes.
Through you, Mr. President, Senator Krueger will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Now, last week's extender was somewhat over 400 million, so this is about more than triple. Can you explain why 1 week to the next week there's such a variance in the flow of cash?
So like our personal budgets, some weeks you get hit with your insurance costs, your monthly rent, some weeks you don't. So what we're advised by the governor's people is that this $1.6 billion is in fact what's needed to cover the week's bills as of this week, this month. On another week, it would be a different amount, perhaps less again, depending on what's owed that week.
Through you, Mr. President, the Senator will continue to yield.
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
So, Senator, so the last 2 weeks combined is just about $2 billion for the 2 weeks. If you extrapolate those 2 weeks out over the year, that's a far cry from our $220 billion budget that we have. So are you telling us that at certain points over the year, those weekly payments are going to be far more substantial than this? They're just not needed this week?
Yes, that is my understanding. And I think if we were to take a moment and go look at the Office of Controller, reports that come out on cash flow moving in and out of the accounts of the state, we would find that there are very extreme differences between weeks and months of the year. So specifically what we were provided by the governor in this bill, supposedly, is this provides funds for payroll and fringe benefit costs, general state charge payments, OTDA, and safety net assistance and family assistance direct benefits, Department of Health special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children payments, AIDS drug assistance programs for New Yorkers Reinvestment Indian Health Program, Department of Labor for the continuation of unemployment insurance benefits, Department of Transportation for mass transit operating assistance, statutory payments for blind veterans, and non-personnel service payments. I don't have a breakdown with me of the individual amount for each of those. But I guess
Thank you, Senator Krueger. Mr. President, the Senator will continue to yield.
The Senator yield.
yes.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you for that general outline. I have a list of some of those more specific dollar items, and I don't need to get into that for this debate today. You mentioned that the budget's being held up by some significant policy issues. Can you tell us or tell the people of New York what those issues are, the reason that we're not resolving a budget timely here?
No, I actually would have to defer to the two leaders of the two houses and the governor to give you that answer. It's a little bit above my pay grade.
Senator Krueger, you understate your value.
One or the other.
Well, one or the other. Mr. President, the Senator will continue to yield.
The sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator Krueger, there's certainly this time of year, there's a lot of rumor, a lot of speculation around the halls of the Capitol, and certainly the media's interest in getting every tidbit they can. But my understanding is that there has been sort of a three-way deal between the leaders on bail, which has been one of the primary sticking points that we've heard throughout this process. Can you tell us what that three-way agreement is at this point?
I sincerely don't have the details, so no, I cannot, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. Mr. President, if the That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Sorry, Mr. President, before we continue, can I just remind my colleagues that apparently if we don't get this bill passed by noon, there's an impact on workers getting paid their next paycheck. Thank you.
With a 12-minute warning, thank you, Senator Krueger. Senator Rhodes, why do you rise?
Mr. President, if the sponsor will yield to a couple of questions.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes, I will.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you, Senator Krueger. It's my understanding that, that the 340B payments are actually payments that are received from the federal government and that the state is a pass-through. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and will the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor
And
yields.
what we've done now with respect to the legislation that was passed 2 years ago, it's my understanding that we've decided to, instead of pass that money through to its ultimate destination, to the FQHCs and to other organizations, that when it comes to prescription drugs, we're taking a portion of that and we are actually giving money, we're taking over the program and giving a portion of the proceeds that these organizations would normally have, giving a portion of it back to them. Is that correct?
That is my understanding of continued negotiations, but there is nothing completely resolved. So it is true that when we passed the law 2 years ago, we were changing what the 340B funds would be used for specifically, and actually that change in law put New York State much more in the inconsistency with most other states in how they were spending the 340B money.
Senator, and will the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Do we know in total how much money the state receives from the federal government in 340B?
We can get you that answer. Unfortunately, we don't have it right this second.
Would the sponsor continue to yield?
The sponsor yield.
Yes.
Would the senator
Sponsor
agree
yields.
that it is significantly more than the $250 million that's in the budget that's supposed to go back to FQHCs and safety net hospitals?
So I'm sorry, we're not really getting a great answer for you with the three of us right now. Our understanding is that the money would continue to come in from the federal government, but would be differently used than it has been used up until now. And so some of it would be reinvestment in the programs that currently receive it, and some of it would be going to the higher rate and reimbursement for the pharmacies who have been pointing out that they get so little for handling the drugs for this population that they're actually in a crisis situation. But my understanding, again, without knowing what the three-way decision will ever be at the end, is that these funds will continue to be sent to us from the federal government in approximately the same amount we've been getting them, and be used for health care for these related populations, but in some variation from how they've been spent before.
Will the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Senator, the money that's in the extender, the $9 million that's going specifically to drug assistance programs, including payments to the Ryan White centers. So are these dollars that those centers would have ordinarily received directly from the state through the federal government, but for the passage of our 340B amendments 2 years ago?
That is correct, yes.
And the $250 million...
Are you asking the sponsor to yield?
Would the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield. Sponsor yields.
The $250 million that was in the governor's proposed budget, that is money that would be going to these FQHCs in lieu of the payments that they would have received from the state as a pass-through from the federal government had this bill not been passed 2 years ago.
So I think that is correct. I had to
Okay.
think through how you were phrasing that.
Would the senator continue to yield?
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields?
The $9 million, does that include any funding for safety net hospitals?
We don't think so, although I'm not saying that I know specifically whether there's any Ryan White programs that may also be affiliated with any safety net hospitals. Because in some places, a hospital operates specific kinds of clinics on their facilities or association with them. So in fairness, I don't know, because I don't have the list with me.
Would
whether
the
any-
sponsor,
to, so to speak.
would the
distressed
sponsor continue to
hospitals.
yield?
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields?
So is it the sponsor's understanding that the only money that goes for AIDS drug assistance programs for Ryan White centers that are in safety net hospitals would be the only funding that's going to safety net hospitals related to this $9 million extender?
1 week, yes.
Would the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields?
What about the other money that's supposed to go to safety net hospitals? Why was that not included in this extender?
There's a number of different programs being negotiated that involve money for safety net hospitals. I'm assuming you mean specifically the 340B.
Yes.
That was going to safety net hospitals up until
Yes.
now. Okay. So yes, we don't know what the final outcome of the negotiations with the governor will be. Hence, I don't know what amount of money from 340B or equivalent purposes will be available to safety net. If you're asking me as a human being, I would prefer that they were all continuing to get everything they needed. But do I know the outcome of the negotiations in our final budget bills? No, I do not.
And would the sponsor continue to yield to what may be one final question?
Does the sponsor yield?
I'll give them one more because they only have 5 minutes for everyone else. Okay.
Sponsor yield for one more.
We can certainly agree, I'm sure, that safety net hospitals are incredibly important because they are called safety net hospitals because they provide critical services independent of traditional funding sources that hospitals would have to provide services to our indigent population that are in need of health services. They can't turn them away. In your view, Senator, should the governor be including these safety net hospitals as part of these extender bills because they have payroll to make too?
No one gives me that option to write the extender bills. So in my opinion, safety net hospitals are a crucial resource for the state throughout the state. And as you point out, my colleague, this is specifically for low-income people with severe chronic illness. So that should absolutely be a priority for all of us when we are making investments. But I don't know what the final outcome will be. So I think we can all perhaps continue to lobby in that direction. I know if you look at our One House bill, we were very clear that we thought that that safety net hospitals should be included in continuation of these funds, and also put additional funds in for the safety net and distressed and public hospitals specifically. And again, I don't know what's happening with that budget negotiation either.
Thank the Senator, you, Mr. President, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. The Secretary will ring the bell. Read the last section.
Section 16 is action to take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
For my colleagues in the majority, there will be an immediate meeting of the Democratic Conference upon adjournment. And with that, I move to adjourn until the call of the temporary President of the Senate, with the intervening days being legislative days.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Democratic Conference following the close of session. On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until the call of the temporary President of the Senate, with the intervening days being legislative days.